Hello. I'm really excited to be reading this book that I actually really loved when I was growing up for Project Sunshine. So I hope you guys enjoy it. And this is Baseball Camp on the Planet of the Eyeballs. I loved this book. Baseball Camp on the Planet of the Eyeballs by John Buehler and Susan Shade. Maybe I pronounced that wrong. Chapter 1. It was bottom of the 6th, and the score was 0-0. I was the next batter up for the Spinato's beauty salon. I was excited. Our rivals, Dave's Seafood Shack, were undefeated. But today, they hadn't scored. We still had a chance. If only we could get a run. I stepped up to the plate. The pitcher for Dave's Seafood was Dan Ditka. He was the reason they were undefeated. No kid in the regional Little League had been able to hit his incredible fastball. I squinted at him and raised my bat. I was ready, and I had an idea. I was going to start my swing before he actually threw the ball. I watched his windup. The left foot off the ground, the right arm behind the head, the left foot making a little circle in the air. I started my swing. Smack! The ball connected with a jolt that set my teeth rattling. I dropped the bat and stood there dazed. The crowd roared. Dan Ditka was in shock. The coach was waving at me. Go! Go! I started running toward first base. A hit. I had hit a Dan Ditka pitch. I rounded second. Coach waved me on. All the way, Hugo, he yelled. It's a home. I headed for the home plate. Hugo, Hugo, Hugo. The fans were shouting my name. It was the greatest day of my life. Chapter 2. It was the day after my big game. I was on my way to baseball camp for a week. And when I got back, we would have another chance to beat Dave's Seafood Shack in the championship. My parents drove me to the bus terminal. I said, you can let me out here. My mother knows I don't like her kissing me in front of the other kids, but sometimes she can't help herself. Besides, I wanted to take off the dorky-looking sweater she made me wear over my uniform. I waved goodbye and ducked into the men's bathroom. The dorky sweater. I actually like that sweater. I think people would think it's fashionable now. I took off the sweater and stuffed it in my duffel bag. I then put on the cool lightning bolt baseball cap that Dan Ditka had given me. He had surprised me after my home run by coming over to shake my hand. Good hit, Hugo, he said, and then he'd given me the cap he used to wear around school. I picked up my bag and grinned at myself in the mirror. Home run king, I said softly. There he is, the home run king. Suddenly, a bright light surrounded me. My skin tingled and I felt strangely weightless. I started to rise off of the ground. I could see myself in the mirror floating helplessly up and up and up, and I tried to cry out, but the only sound I could make was a little gurgle in my throat. And then I disappeared right through the ceiling of the men's bathroom. The next thing I knew, I was inside a spaceship, surrounded by skinny-legged eyeballs. They were staring at me and beeping. Ma, I cried, Dad, help! The eyeballs stopped beeping. They stared at each other. One of them stepped forward and spoke to me in English. Don't worry, Agent 86. You may have gone so far in your undercover identity on Earth that you have forgotten your own language. We have heard this happening before. When we get home, you will morph into your own shape, and it will come back to you. I looked behind me, but there was nobody there. The eyeball was talking to me. I said, but I'm not Agent 86. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm just Hugo. I'm just Hugo LaRosa of 47 Mallovine Lane on my way to baseball camp. You're making a terrible mistake. Those are the eyeballs. And there's Hugo. Or Agent 86. They didn't believe me. But at least they left me alone. Hours later, we landed on a small bare planet. They walked me to a little round house called a pod and fed me some horrible glop. They then sat down and waited for me to morph back into an eyeball. They told me that I, Agent 86, was expected to make an important report about Earth to the chief eyeball official. But I'm not Agent 86, I said. I'm Hugo LaRosa, and I'm not morphing into anything or anybody else. On the second day, they said that the chief eyeball official was demanding to hear my report, and they might have to use forced morphing to get me to cooperate. That got me worried. Forced morphing? Not if I could help it, I said. All right, I'll make a report, but only if I can do it in human form. They agreed, and they took my duffel bag in case they wanted to send me home afterward, and I followed them to a huge arena. The chief eyeball officer, otherwise known as the CEO, was waiting for me. The other eyeballs sat in the stands and watched. Well, I didn't know what to say. Then I remembered my third grade teacher, Mr. Morgan, telling me to write about what I knew. So what did I know? Baseball, I said. What? Said the CEO. Life on Earth is sort of like baseball, I said. The CEO waited. Baseball is a game played on a ball field with 2 teams, I said. There are 9 players on each team. One team stands in the field, their pitcher throws the ball, and the batter on the other side of the team tries to hit it. Once I got going, it wasn't so hard. I guess Mr. Morgan was right. When the batter hits the ball, I continued, he gets to run around the bases and score. After I had finished, the CEO looked at me for a long time. Finally, he said to me, I don't get it. How could I explain? I took my bat and my ball out of my duffel. I said, this is the bat, and this is the ball. So he's got the bat and the ball. Good, good, said the CEO. We will have a demonstration. He beeped at the stands, and all 18 balls and 18 eyeballs came down to play baseball. They looked at me, waiting for instructions. I looked at them. Well, you know, it's easier to play if you have arms, I said. The 18 eyeballs beeped among themselves for a minute, and then they morphed into Hugo LaRosas. They all looked exactly like me. See? They all looked exactly like him. I said, we need to be able to tell the teams apart by having different uniforms or something. The CEO smiled, and he zapped one team with a glance, and they all turned blue, and then he zapped the other team, and they all turned pink. It was the Pinks against the Blues. I showed everyone where to stand. I showed the pink pitcher how to throw the ball. I showed the blue batter how to swing the bat. Batter up, play ball. The pink pitcher threw the ball. The blue batter waited, ready to swing, and just before the ball reached home, it swerved and took off in another direction. The batter chased after it, swinging at it with the bat. The eyeballs in the stands laughed and cheered. Stop, I yelled, what's going on? The CEO explained it to me. The pitcher was using thought waves to control the ball. Well, that's cheating, I said. You just throw the ball and take your chances. That's him chasing after the ball. The blue batter hit the next pitch, a grounder to third base. Good, I yelled. Batter, run to first, third baseman. I stared. The ball had stopped in midair. Mid-bounce, right in front of the third baseman. It hovered there while he waited to hear my instructions. I sighed and looked at the CEO. Thought waves? I asked. He nodded. It's natural for them, he said. They will try to hide it from you, but they probably won't stop. If you see a red glint in their eyes, you know that they're controlling the ball. The only way to be sure they don't treat is to bring out a thought wave inhibitor. The players groaned. The eyeball was sent out and came back with a big magnet. He set it down behind home plate. So that's a thought wave inhibitor, I thought. It looked like a regular old magnet to me. The game went pretty smoothly after that. The eyeballs in the stands were going wild. I was surprised to see that they had divided into 2 groups. On one side, they cheered and gave off a pink glow whenever the Pinks hit the ball, and on the other side, they cheered and gave off a blue glow whenever the Blues got a hit. So this is them doing the pink glow, and it's the blue team upset because the pink team's winning. I pointed this out to the CEO. That's the CEO. He nodded and said, I think I'm beginning to understand life on Earth. I thought it might be a good time to ask him to send me home. I explained about the championship game coming up in 5 days, and I told him how my team needed me to beat Dave's Seafood. Don't be silly, he said. What could be more important than the Pinks and the Blues? We'll have another game tomorrow. What could I do? We played baseball every day. For the next 4 days, we practiced throwing and running and batting. In fact, it was pretty much like baseball camp, except I was miserable. And I usually love baseball camp. This is the pinks and the blues, and there's Hugo. He's really miserable. Very sad. I kept worrying about forced morphing and about what my parents would do when I didn't show up at the bus terminal. They would never find me here. And what about the big championship game? One eyeball had become our bat boy, and I liked him because he called me Hugo instead of Agent 86. I called him Bat Boy. Here's Bat Boy. Bat Boy told me that he hoped to be sent on a fact-finding mission to Earth. Someday, I said, he should look me up when he got there. He said that he would. I told him all about Dan Ditka and my big home run and how much I wanted to play in the championship game. He looked around, then he whispered, "Maybe it could be arranged." I stared at him. What? An escape? Shh! We met after practice to make our plans. Was it a mistake for me to trust such a small eyeball? I didn't know, but it was my only hope. I left all the technical stuff to Bat Boy. He said he knew how to pilot a flying saucer. He told me to meet him on the roof of my pod at midnight. I climbed up. It was dark, but the eyeballs had built-in headlights so I could see them moving around on the bare landscape. That's him on the roof, and that's the eyeball with a built-in headlamp. By midnight, they had all gone inside their pods. I waited. 1 minute. 2 minutes. 5 minutes. A flying saucer approached silently. I didn't even see it until it was almost on top of me, and then the hatch opened and a rope ladder was lowered. Bat Boy apologized for the ladder. "I didn't want to beam you up in case somebody saw the light," he said. He focused his eye on the dials. I saw the telltale red glint of thought waves. The flying saucer hummed. We were heading for Earth. There they are. See, he's got the same hat. "Why won't they come after us?" I asked. "I don't think so. I left a note from my father and said that I was sure that you actually weren't Agent 86 and that we were going back to find the real one." "Oh, you have a father?" "Of course. He's the CEO. Suddenly, I felt a little better about hurtling through space with a small eyeball. At least he was the son of the chief eyeball officer. About 12 hours later, Bat Boy landed the flying saucer in the woods behind the bus terminal. I checked my watch. It was 11:55 a.m. and my parents were meeting the noon bus. "Wow," I said. "Good timing." Bat Boy smiled and scuffed his feet. He said, "I'll see you at the big game." There's Bat Boy. My parents were happy to see me. There's parents. But not as happy as I was to see them. My mom said, "So how was baseball camp?" Okay." My mother smiled at my father. "Oh, he's exhausted, the poor thing." She was right. I fell asleep in the car. The next thing I knew, I was in my own bed, and they were shaking me awake. "It's 3:30. It's time to get ready for the championship game." Right from the start, the game did not go well. I told my team about swinging early against Dan Ditka, but it wasn't working. We were down 2-0. The top of the fifth, I was the first batter up. I swung early, but the ball slowed down and I missed it. That's the ball being pitched by Dan Ditka. "Strike one!" The next pitch looked good. I swung at the last second and the ball curved right over my bat. "Strike two!" The third pitch, I watched Dan Ditka. He must have learned some new tricks in baseball camp. The wind-up, the pitch, and then I saw it. The glint of red in Dan Ditka's eyes, the unmistakable sign of thought waves. I gasped. Dan Ditka was Agent 86. In a flash, it all became clear to me. His control, even his lightning bolt cap. He had wanted me out of the way, so he gave me his cap, and that's why the eyeballs picked me. I was so surprised. I didn't even swing. "Strike three, you're out." I ran over to my parents in the stands. You gotta do something for me, please. It's crucial. Go home, get all the magnets from the refrigerator, and hurry. Hugo, whatever for? I can't explain. There's no time. I need them before the start of the 6th inning. Run. I guess I convinced them. So they ran. There's Hugo. And there's his mom and dad. Parents the best. In the 6th inning, I stood as near to home plate as I could get. My pockets were full of refrigerator magnets, and they were working. Dan Ditka walked the first 3 batters. Finally, he managed to get a slow one over the plate, and Ramona Spinato belted it for a grand slam. Dave's seafood fell apart. We won the championship 26-2. And there is Ramona Spinato with that grand slam. I met Dan Ditka as he was being led off the field by a short kid with big eyes. That boy in human form. See, remember the hat? There's Dan. Thanks a lot, Hugo, Dan snarled. If it wasn't for you, I could have been the youngest kid ever to make the majors. Yeah, well, that's not the way we play the game, I said to Dan. I shook Bat Boy's hand and thanked him for believing in me. He winked and said, I'll be back, Hugo. If you want to get in touch with me, just put on that lightning bolt cap. It transmits through thought wave mail. So long. I watched him walk away. Thought wave mail, I thought to myself. Cool. And that was baseball camp on the planet of the eyeballs. Thank you guys so much. I really hope that you guys are staying healthy, and I hope you enjoy this book, and I'm sending love. Thanks. Bye.